Kate Falcha. Welcome to Irish Granny Helen. I am doing this special little video card reading for a subscriber. Somebody requested I do this, and it's ironic because I used to watch the Card-Ashians probably, I don't know, how many marriages ago? Years ago. And I started to really struggle. I mean, it's a whole number of layers of stupid. I understand that. But it really began to wear on me when I realized how superficial, materialistic, valueless, inherently valueless things were spotlighted constantly on that show. Famous rich people can possibly have some depth. And I watched it because it was so odd. It's so weird to see people living this sort of aimless, wealthy life. And it's kind of fun to imagine what it would be like to only have to worry about what salad dressing is delivered with your salad at lunchtime. It's just the strangest thing. But somebody wanted me to do a reading on them. So it's been so long, I have no idea what's going on with them, that I Googled the Card-Ashians. And there's questions, that most commonly asked questions that Google arranges for you under the Wikipedia thing. So rather than actually exert any effort reading about them, I looked at the questions, the most famous questions, and very quickly it was apparent all the questions are about their health. And it struck me that, what are they, 5 or 6 of them? I can't remember. Most of them have children, and there are 6 girls alone in my family. There are 12 of us. And most of us have had children. And I've never seen such an assortment of disorders and complications and conditions and issues as the entire clan of Kardashians seems to have. It's interesting. I'm not saying they're illegitimate. I'm just saying it's interesting. Plus the number of clothes. I've never seen so many clothes in my life. What strikes me about their family more than anything is they get these pictures taken periodically, and they all wear the same color. And we had one picture taken shortly after my second child was born of my whole extended family. And it took all afternoon. And my sister's slip was still showing in the picture. I don't know. I don't know how they do it. Okay. I'm going to do the Celtic cross. And my question is, what can we know about the Kardashians that they haven't revealed fully on screen? Well, this is interesting. I engage in a lot of snark about them, and I do feel somewhat guilty about it, because you don't know until you're in somebody else's shoes just how difficult their life really is for them. And I think that this card says it all. The 10 of Wands. They have a lot of issues, and I think they're legitimate issues. I tend to imagine that they're performative, but not all of it is manufactured. I think they really do have a substantial number of problems that feel very difficult for them. Although I think money sure oils the skids, but okay. And crossed by the King of Cups. I hate to say this, giving them too much credit, but I think actually at heart, really all they want is love and validation. And it's so extreme how badly they need it that it dominates their lives. And I think you see that, and it's reflected in their relationships with men. It's reflected in the weird tension with their mother. Yeah, I think that they're more emotional than I would ordinarily be likely to give them credit for. But notice I said emotional. I'm not sure they're entirely compassionate. In the atmosphere, the Two of Wands reversed, these are not people who have a lot of good grasp of cause and effect, good grasp of long-term implications of things. They live very much in the moment. They go from drama to drama. I should say melodrama to melodrama. Like right now, I don't know what's going on. Well, that's not, I'm lying. I don't want to lie. Kim failed bar. I knew she was taking the bar. I read it somewhere. And I don't know where she's going to law school, but that would be moot, right? Moot court, right? Would be moot because I'm sure that she has tutors. I would. I mean, that's what I would spend all that money for. So, you know, more credit to her. She doesn't, I mean, if she really is legitimately studying, more credit to her. That's not easy. I think I would probably have more respect for her if she got in her car early in the morning and went every day to school with all the other proles, you know. She's trying. You have to give her credit for that. And I do believe, you know, she supported I don't know if it was more than one person who was falsely accused. I think she's been an advocate to help people who are falsely accused. She doesn't have to do that. So, you know, more power to her. But these women, and because they're brother, who knows, these women are, their foundation is deception. Now, this should be obvious to all of us because you cannot indulge in that much plastic surgery and those many pounds of makeup and those hours getting created and still be a genuine person. I just don't see how you can do that. You invest so much time into the externals. What time are you investing in the internal growth? I don't think they're honest with each other very much. I think eventually everything comes out right on screen. I mean, we know things we don't need to know. So there's a weird element of transparency, but there's a lot of deception going on and trying to get away with things. And I'm just going to say this without saying this. Their family structure, nearly 30 years ago, their public person burst into public awareness as a result of deception engaged in by one of the adult family members. Ask yourself what happened roughly 30 years ago that family was involved in, and ask yourself which adult member of the family was most public facing and what was the deception. I'm not going to make accusations, but I think you might be able to figure it out. So we're talking about people who excuse me, really feel like they have love to share, are in a constant quest for validation and receiving love and affection back. But it's a struggle for them. Their relationships with men are problematic. And their relationships with everybody are just emotion is forward all the time. And it's somewhat a lack of forethought. It's somewhat a lack of maturity to figure out cause and effect. I mean, they're not stupid. They're not as dumb as you might think based on the externals. I'm totally judging here, but I think you understand what I'm saying. They're not dumb, but there's some emotional maturity and regulation that's missing. If I recall, they were going after each other with claws out, like physically going after each other in disagreements as full-grown adults. Yeah. The Four of Swords, I struggle to understand this because this is in the recent past. Maybe this is an indication that their public persona is waning a little bit. I don't know this. I haven't been paying attention. But is the light starting to dim just a little bit? But they very much see themselves as winners. They will prevail. They very much see themselves as always being able to come out on top. And that kind of an attitude has served them well in some regards, not in personal relationships, certainly in business. I think because of this, they have a willingness to do whatever it takes. But here's an interesting reflection on their personal lives. We get the Lovers reversed in the environment of the Nine of Cups reversed. I think that they are relatively unsuccessful in male-female relationships. It's always a quest. Their pickers are broken. They go after the wrong kind of person. They go after the person who seems to have it all. But they inevitably end up with the person who doesn't want to share or doesn't know how to share emotionally and who's arrogant. Oops, just knocked that on the floor. Where did it go? Interesting, the Lovers just got dumped. Hopes and fears. This, they remain optimistic. They have currency. They have connections, they have money, and they have their looks. They're not ugly, and they're very curated. But they're not ugly, and that goes far in the businesses that they're interested in. And the kind of men they pick. That's the problem. They're trading in the superficial, and they're looking for the superficial. Deep inside, they want something more, but they haven't looked inside to figure out what it is they really need. And so the outcome, interestingly, is the Magician. They, like I said, they see themselves as winners, and that's half the battle. They will make it happen. It's intention. It's having long burning desire. In that regard, they do have a plan. In business, they have a plan. In relationships, not so much. And then we get the Magician crossed by the World. I think, try as they might to make things continue to happen, things in the world, in life, in karma, they come in cycles. And inevitably, as successful as they are, it can't last. And I think maybe that Four of Swords and the World reversed, maybe they're together trying to tell us that perhaps things are diminishing for them. Let's do this. Let's ask this question. Will they be able to remarket themselves? Will they be able to salvage their waning popularity, garner attention again? Because I feel that's what's happening. I don't know. Maybe it's just me not paying attention. Interesting. So once again, the Six of Wands. They are ultimately successful. And they're ultimately successful because they see themselves that way. They are the magicians. Justice. They have this sense of, well, it's just fair. We deserve it. That, you know, sometimes in the material world, sometimes that's what it takes. Look at the Two of Cups. This is kind of a nice card for them. To me, this says that it's likely that they'll be able to find peace having to do with male-female emotional relationships. Will they know what they have when they have it? You know, because their focus is very external, visual, appearances, stuff. And they haven't evolved, any of them, to find what they need to find inside to be successful at long-term relationships. I think it all comes down to the mother. I hate to blame her. Actually, I actually don't think it only comes down to the mother, but I'm not going to do a card on their father. Not now. I have opinions. But I think their relationship with their mother defines them, even as adults. Let's read a card on Kris Jenner. Wow. Talk about your predictable cards. Okay. The Ten of Swords crossed by the King of Wands. Her motivation, her worldview has been molded by the male relationships in her life. They've caused her grief, but they've brought her to take action to advocate for herself. She is a strong person, but it comes out of pain. It goes back far, and it keeps getting repeated. Because very much like her daughter, or I should say her daughters are very much like her, her picker is broken, and it's broken because of trauma, and it's trauma from very far past, and none of this should in any way surprise any of us. It's the story of our lives, right? In the atmosphere of the Five of Cups, her emotional relationships are predicated on pain and loss. The more she tries to manufacture this image of perfection, the more she's reflecting really the troubled pain and trauma in her heart and her soul, her past. foundation, she's the Queen of Coins. So this is a card for maternal care, a big surprise. She's like, you know, the earth mother of the family. Well, maybe not earth mother, but definitely a very important role is the influence of their mother in their lives. But she's also the person, well, what do they call her? Momager. I just realized that. She's the money person. She has a knack. She should have gotten the magician. She's the real magician in this group. In the past, the Eight of Cups. I think that she has, you know, this whole entire reading talks quite a bit about past pain and past emotion and past difficulty and having to work uphill dealing with the emotional scars that she carries. She's nobody's fool. Now, they got the Two of Wands reversed. All the daughters did. She gets the Two of Wands upright. She's the one who's got the plan. She's the one who sees clearly. And I'm not saying that the others don't have some of those abilities, but there's a strong, dominant energy around her reading. Just, she is, I mean, look at that. Yes, ma'am. So this is her, Ace of Coins, always with a plan, always interested in whatever new thing, new project will bring in the bucks. And this is a crack up. Once again, the Six of Swords. She makes them succeed. She's got the moxie. The Chariot. She wants it to happen now, hard and fast. She's a very aggressive person. I think she's hard to be around. I think her energy, what I get, is somebody who is just kind of tightly wound and shallow whirlpool is what I hear. The outcome, the Eight of Coins, always evaluating the job and where the money is and how the whole the plan is going, but crossed by the Empress. I mean, look at that. It says it all. So this is the dominant energy in the family around which she's like the sun around which they all spin. And she just lets off all kinds of plasma storms and rules the roost. And yet there's a deep pain there. I think she feels very betrayed. Yeah. I don't want to talk about that right now. There are two issues that it's not the time. We're looking at the larger family dynamic. Let's be really mean. Let's just pull a couple of cards. Will Kim pass the bar? I shouldn't laugh. I mean, I wouldn't take it. I couldn't pass it. I've had classes I couldn't pass. So, you know, we're all in this together. We have to laugh. But will she pass the bar? California bar is notorious for being difficult. A small percentage of people pass it the first time they take it. There's no shame in it. So, I don't know. Okay, so this is her reevaluating where she is. She didn't do so well, and now she's got to figure out where it is that her deficiencies are. Three of Wands. This is definitely a plan for the future, something to work on, looking towards a goal. Admirable to have that kind of a goal. But then I get the Devil. So there are obstacles in her path, like toxic people, situations. I think of the sins of the flesh. I think she's too distracted, not paying enough attention, not single-mindedly focused. I think she can do it, but she would really have to reevaluate, and that's what this card is. The Four of Swords. She'd have to reevaluate, sit back a second and figure out what it is she needs to do in order to be successful academically. And it is the Three of Wands. She's going to have to focus on the future, put her nose to the grindstone, really work and tune out the distractions. But it's very hard to tune out the distractions when you're spending 4 hours a day getting, all right, enough. I'm being mean. Thank you for watching. I hope this answered my subscriber's question. And there was a second part to your question, and I'll get to it. I can only take so much in one day. So thank you for watching. Slán go fóill, slánte.